guys, it's Tina, and this is my homesteading project. Today we are going to process some fleece. Now this particular fleece is a merino, and it was given to me. It is about 10 years old. It was sheared in 2006 and stored in a plastic bag in a box, which is not ideal conditions. But regardless, the fleece is still in pretty good shape. Although I can tell by the staple length, and there's some matting at the base, that this poor sheep probably was not sheared yearly. It looks like this is probably about 2 years of growth, and so it is a little bit matted towards the side where the sheep, where you would cut it, where it was sheared, and the outside is very curly in it, and it's pretty matted up towards the bottom. But when you first start out with fleece, you may end up with something like this. So I wanted to show you all is not lost. It is still usable. It will just take a little bit more processing. Now I have it on the table here. I do it in smaller batches. This is about half of a fleece. And I do it in smaller batches because I don't have a big skirting table. I just use my sewing table. The first thing I do is I put it sheer side up. So the outside curly part that would be on the outside of the sheep is on the bottom. And the reason I do that is because I kind of just eyeball it, and I look to see if I can see any second cuts, any little nippy bits that you won't spin. So I just pull those out, and these you can hold on to these. These can be used to stuff things or whatever, but you don't want that in your final felt. Anyway, after I do that, I flip it over. See, look at all that dirt, yuck. And you can give it a shake, and some of the dirt will fall out. But then when I flip it over, what I do is I look for big pieces of vegetable matter, and if there's any, poop or anything like that, pull those pieces off too, because you don't want that in your fleece. It won't wash out, so you might as well just pull those pieces out. But you won't get all the vegetable matter out, but I look for like big sticks and twigs and things like that. And I pull all that VM out. And so I will go ahead and do that. And then I will go ahead and show you the next step in washing this up so that we can start processing it to spin. Oh, and one thing I will say is, like I said, you won't get all the vegetable matter out. So there's a couple different options. You can pick it after it's washed, you can comb it, or you can card it, and that will help get the rest of all of this stuff out. So this particular fleece, I've already done a batch, and I'll show you how I processed it, but we'll just go from there. So okay guys, so I've kind of gone through just quickly and picked out all the big VM and second cuts that I can see. Of course, there's still plenty in there. So now I'm going to, how I wash it, I wash in a bucket, so I need small batches. And I like to use, can you see that? I like to use mesh bags, and this is a fairly small lingerie bag, and I get them at the dollar store for 3 of them for $1, which 3 fit perfect in a 5-gallon bucket. So now what I'm going to do is I like to try to keep the parts of the fleece together in the same grade. So like the back I like to keep together, and then the legs and the back end, and I try to keep those together, and I try to keep, stomach together. So so we'll start with kind of the middle here of the sheep. And as I said, this is pretty matted. Now, if you were going to buy a fleece, I would not recommend buying a fleece that was in this condition. But this is what we've got to work with, so that's what we're going to do. Because I've already processed some of this fleece, and because it didn't get sheared when it should have, and it's got these really matted sections, which will still comb out, so it's not all lost. But because it wasn't sheared properly, there is dander in the fleece as well. Fortunately, this sheep did not get lice. That can be an issue too. But there is an awful lot of dander in here, and it takes a lot longer to process this and get all that dander out. So I'm just taking pieces, and I will let you know, I do not wash my fiber. I'm not washing this fiber because of its condition to maintain lock formation. If you were going to do that, you would do it a different way. You would individually pull the locks out, and it's a little bit different process. But for my purposes, for this particular fleece, I'm just going to fill up this bag with fiber. And you don't want to stuff it too full, but once the fleece gets wet, it won't be quite so puffy. So even though it looks like your bag is super duper full, once it's wet, it's not going to look like much fiber. So I'm just going to put, we can put a little bit more in there. So as you can see, I'm pulling from the middle section because these are all about the same length locks and the same texture fleece. And you can give it a shake and shake out some dirt. And we'll put a little bit more in there. So, I've got fleece, we'll put a little bit more. Oops, see, there's a great big, look at that twig, we'll pull that out of there. Alright, so, we've got our fleece in the bag. And I do 3 bags at a time, 3 bags per bucket. So there's our bag of fleece, and I'll go ahead and fill 2 more bags, and we'll go to the next step.